Welcome back to the Living Well series here at the Yarra Valley Living Centre. So there was a particular topic that I thought might be interesting to share with you. I've been meditating now for 45 years. I began my practice even before that in the Buddhist tradition. So I was practicing with the Tibetan Buddhism, Zen, different branches of Buddhism. And finally, I kind of found that the method that worked best for me, and everyone finds this very individual path in their spiritual journey, but for me, I landed with the Brahma Kumaris and the practice of Raj Yoga meditation. So I've been meditating for, as I said, over 45 years. I've experienced so much. And I was curious as to how it all works, because very often when we have experiences, we don't really know how we got there. I mean, to a certain extent, I know that the methodology of Raj Yoga meditation is very effective, and I would say what's most effective for me is the practice of thinking about something very deeply and with concentration, because when I focus on one thing, I get a deeper experience. So it's not a little bit of peace, a little bit of happiness, a little bit of love. Not that, but one particular question in my mind or experience that I seek. If I stay focused and stay on that track, I go deeper and deeper until I get an experience. So we often say in the Brahma Kumaris that it's not a matter of emptying the mind, but thinking, learning how to think. But when you're in that state, when you've gone deeply into one particular aspect and you find yourself in the experience, then there's no longer any thought. Because when we are in an experience, we don't think. And so we start the journey by thinking, but end up not thinking, experiencing. So you could say we go deep into a particular thought, or you could say we go beyond by thinking beyond whatever it is that is of this world. And I'm very interested in neuroscience as a way of explaining this journey. And in particular, I've taken a lot from someone called Joe Dispenza, who is not a neuroscientist. He was actually a chiropractor, and he had an accident where they needed to put 2 steel rods in his back in order for him to be able to stand. But he decided that he would use his mind to heal his back. And now we know quite clearly through neuroscience the understanding of the neural pathways. So we actually create new neural pathways through thinking and through experience. So he imagined himself for 4 hours every day going through his regular routine, getting up out of bed, dressing, going to the bathroom, brushing his teeth, washing, getting into the car, going shopping, cleaning, doing all the things that he would normally do in a day. It might have helped him that he knew very well the workings of the back because he was a chiropractor. So possibly that helped him to really be able to picture in his mind the muscles and, exactly how things were working. But whatever he did, he said within 16 weeks, only 16 weeks, he was living a normal life. It sounds impossible, but if you realize that we are 99.99999% energy, as Joe Dispenza says, we're more nothing than something. And so if we are not as physical as we imagine, then it seems, why not? It's very possible because we are basically energy, and there's just something physical holding us together. Very, very interesting. It's quite hard to get my head around the whole science of it, but he's not the only one to say this. Physics is telling us this, and we know it to be a fact. So I accept what the scientists have researched and explored and discovered, and I wish to work with that. And so not only are we then not physical, mostly not physical, it means that you and me, people of different cultures, races, colors, ages, we're all 99.99999% the same, which to me is just wonderful, because I think if there's one particular quality I enjoy most, it's a feeling of connectedness. And it's one of my strongest values to stay connected. So Joe also talks about most people are thinking either about people, things, or time. And it made me think, well, if I didn't think about people, things, or time, what would I think about? What would you think about? If you didn't think about people, things, or time, what is beyond these things? The spiritual being, the self, I, the soul, I'm beyond people, things, or time, meaning I'm not a person as such. I'm a spirit, and I'm beyond a thing and beyond time. Qualities like love and peace and happiness, they're also beyond people, things, and time. Even when I see you as a spiritual being, you are beyond people, things, and time. When I go beyond your personality, the role that you play, you, the being, are beyond people, things, and time. And the soul beyond what people refer to as God, Allah, Jehovah, that being is also beyond people, things, and time. So I make sure that I spend a good amount of time every day going beyond these three things. So that's a practice that enriches, because whatever the body's made of, I need to consume those things to keep myself going. So I need water, minerals, I need certain vitamins, oil, whatever it is that I need to consume so that I can keep the body replenished. So what's the soul made of? It's made up of It's a being of peace, love, happiness. So am I, in a sense, consuming? Am I taking in peace? Am I experiencing peace, love, and happiness enough to nurture myself, to replenish myself, and to keep myself vibrant and full? So when they say stop to smell the roses, it's not a luxury, I would say. It's a necessity. It's a necessity to replenish the inner being. Another thing that I've explored and studied is brainwaves. And I think we're all familiar with beta, alpha, theta, and delta brainwaves. And basically, the more we slow down the brainwaves, the healthier we will be. Because every thought produces a chemical. So if I'm in the high beta range, I will be stressed. I will be producing cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and not good for my health. Whereas if I relax and go down to alpha, I'm already producing melatonin, which is for relaxation. You can go to the pharmacy and buy these chemicals to deal with your states of mood and your being, but we can produce these through our thinking. So slow down and experience and produce melatonin. And as we go into an even slower state of mind, we can produce theta. And theta has very high levels of serotonin, which is the happiness hormone, and also melatonin, and DHEA, which is good for human growth hormone. So we're actually able to replenish our body by thinking steadier, calmer, and slower thoughts. And then, of course, we can even go to delta. But before I go there, one thing I found very interesting about theta, they say you can only really change in a state of theta. And I just find that so informative, because I think many of us would like to change certain habits, but if we're doing it in a forceful way, if we're doing it in an impatient way, we're not going to have the space, the slowing down of our mind that will enable us to make those changes. And of course, delta is the state when we're in a very deep state of sleep. But yogis are able to be in a delta state even when physically awake and active. So this is the state we'd like to reach, at least for some time of the day. And another thing that scientists have said through their research is if we're in an alpha state, our thoughts are 7 times more powerful, which means whatever you think, it's got 7 times more chance of coming to fruition. If we're in a delta state, it's 35 times more powerful. And I don't really know what states I get into, but I just know that when I started to slow my thoughts down, what started to happen is nearly anything I think happens. So if I think about doing something or meeting someone, you know, these things that we call synchronicity, they just happen very regularly. And what helped me to come into this state was something that I read from the Tao of Leadership, John Heder. And there was a sentence in that book, and it said, few leaders realize how little they have to do. Few leaders realize how little they have to do. And for me, it went back to my Buddhist studies, which talks about the Eightfold Path, which is basically right thinking, right concentration, right awareness, right livelihood, right action. So when I think less, and yet it's on the right track, it will be more effective. And from the Gita, something similar talks about aligning with truth. And when we're aligned, we don't do anything for the return. We do it because it's just the right thing. Whatever we do it just because that's what's right for now. And I think all of these, you know, go together, whether it's the Taoist, the Buddhist, the Gita, and what I'm learning in my practice through Raj Yoga is how to practice all of these states. And so if we're able to think less, but just have a clear, right thought, that will manifest. And the idea, as we learn, is not to think about how it's going to happen. We don't need to. We don't need to plan and organize our thoughts around that. Just a clear intention, and that will attract the outcome. And so through my study of science and seeing how it relates to my experiences, I'm able to see that whatever I'm achieving, it's not magic. It's actually a science. It's a science of the mind, and anyone can practice this. It's not special people. It's not gifted people. It's a methodology. So if we apply ourselves to the practice, we can get the results. And so why I'm interested to study this is so that I can share it with others and assure everyone that they also can get these same results. It's not something out of our hands, but it's just a matter of practice, awareness, and really setting our mind to the task. And so, you know, it's a very, I was a little bit shy to speak about neuroscience because I'm not a neuroscientist, but actually I'm a meditator, and the neuroscientists are basing their research and studies on meditators. And so I'm the one that they're studying. So in that sense, I'm studying myself and applying their scientific knowledge to really understand what's going on with this wonderful practice of meditation. Because I remember some years ago, it was on the front page of the Time magazine many years ago, and it said, can meditation really do all the things that it claims? And there were claims of people healing themselves. There were claims of people's gray hair going black, and relationships improving, health improving. There was just so many benefits from meditation. And pretty much, I think from that article, they concluded that based on people's experiences, yes, this method of meditation really does work. And now they're applying it to school children to help them de-stress, to focus, and also to be creative. So this practice of meditation is not all hard and disciplined. It's not really like that. It's playful, it's light, it's relaxed, it's letting go. So, it's, as somebody said, we are not very good at being concentrated and relaxed. We are either concentrated and quite serious, or relaxed and not able to harness that mental ability. So meditation has been described as being concentrated and yet relaxed. So in so many ways it brings these balances to our life that we really do need. So let's do a meditation to think about how we can use the power of the mind. So as I said, we concentrate. Actually, we concentrate the intellect. The intellect likes to concentrate, it likes to focus. The mind doesn't. The mind is creative and likes to expand, which is why a lot of people struggle with trying to control the mind in meditation. I would say it's not natural. So let me concentrate my intellect, which means it's a bit like putting an anchor down. I am going to anchor my mind in one particular thought anchor my intellect in one particular thought and let my mind just expand around that. If you've been on a boat and anchored and then the boat just drifts around, it's got a long rope, so it can drift around and feel free, and we can expand our mind. So let's try it. So let me now anchor my thought in peace. For this meditation, I will focus on the experience of deep inner peace. I've dropped the anchor. And now I can let the mind expand and think about experiences of peace that I've had in my life. I remember going snorkeling, going under the water, and the only thing I could hear was my own breath. I could just hear myself breathing. And I felt so peaceful. And it was easier to connect with anything that was around me. The small colorful fish, the seaweed. There was nothing else in my mind. So perhaps you can also bring to mind an experience of peace, perhaps in a forest or a garden, on top of a mountain. Just remember the experience of peace and silence. I can also use my imagination. I can imagine myself floating, leaving this body part where it's sitting and letting my mind float up above, up past the clouds, as light as a feather drifting on a breeze. Light and free, calm, so peaceful. Looking down at the earth from high up above and seeing this beautiful planet below, my home, where I play my part on the world drama stage. But then going even higher beyond the clouds and imagining myself drifting into a region of very soft golden red light. All around there is only light and silence. Light and silence. I am just a point of light in this region of light. A being of peace in a world of peace. I fill myself with this experience of peace, and my mind becomes still. I feel so refreshed, having experienced this stillness, and I let myself float gently back through the region of light and silence, above the clouds. I see my body down below. And I slip back into it, just like putting on a costume. I'm aware of how the senses have become so calm and cool through this deep relaxation. I feel refreshed. And ready to reconnect with the part that I'm playing in this wonderful game of life. So just take a few breaths. Become aware of the feeling in your heart. And just move a little bit. See how good you feel having taken that little journey that's just a thought away. It's not difficult to go beyond. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you for another session of Living Well very soon. Om Shanti.